Sorry.
Bless you.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I did too. Prices and things like this stuff. Jimmy's a very reasonable. Oh, yeah, I dealt with him. He's, you know, I think he understood. Although he may not wholeheartedly agree with some of it, but he actually does. There'll be a real positive outcome of that. Just get rid of it. That's.
Yeah, just go to those. Okay.
6:30. All right, good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the Village of Lannon Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, June 27th, 2024 to order at 6:30 p.m. We'll all rise to the pledge of allegiance. Please remove your headgear and silence your phones.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to welcome our new planning commission member, Ms. Lavold. So thank you for making yourself available and committing some time to the village. Roll call.
Graham.
Here.
Light.
Here.
Bold. Here. Niven.
Here.
Janice.
Here.
Hay Lightner.
Here.
Gates.
Here.
All present.
Statement of public notice,
Has been posted.
discussion and possible approval of plan commission meetings from 4/25. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from 4/25.
I'll second. We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Mike, did you notice anything?
No.
No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to approve the minutes. Item number 6, citizen comments.
David Bartel, 7282 Vine Street. My back lot adjoins the old antique shop. A couple of comments. Just trying to get a timeline from you people, whoever, about cutting the weeds and replacing the sidewalk. That's been there almost, close to 4 months, 3.5 months. I see a lot of people walking on the road. Lori over there, ride their little scooter on the road. And then I gave you some paperwork on the difference between the 4-foot green space and the 10-foot vehicle parking close to a residential. You've got that.
Mhm.
And it said there's a conflict in the code book. Like the maintenance and placement of driveway and parking areas. The specific word is paragraph 2, in commercial, industrial, institutional, and multifamily. I'm ROP, single resident, single family resident. That shouldn't pertain there as much as on the next page, which gives all the specifics for the parking lot. And paragraph F in off-street parking area other than that provided for a resident, which abuts another resident district, no vehicle shall be allowed to park closer than 10 feet to the abutting residential lot line. What are the conflict with the things here? Maybe we can get that resolved. I met with Ben yesterday for a while. We looked at the site plan. You'd have to raise that parking lot 2 feet. Right higher than my backyard. And we had talked about an inlet. Difference between an inlet, then you don't have to raise it so far. And it's gonna be 2 foot concrete sidewalk right in my backyard, basically. I don't know about that. And then the retaining wall. I'm concerned about snow plowing. If they plow that all on a green space, where's it gonna melt? And then there'd be salt in it or whatever, where's it gonna melt? What else?
Ben, can you?
Then put a little bit here on the new site plan of ours. But you guys didn't approve the 4 foot yet. There was, you tabled it, so that's in the air. I'm just looking for some clarification. And maybe we can move that. It's gonna be hard to build 2 retaining walls, one here, 2 foot high, have a green space between it. And you're gonna have to you're gonna retain the aggregate, otherwise, so that'd be 2 different walls, 4 foot apart. So, other than that, I guess, that's about it.
Thank you, Dave. Any other public comments? Mike, do you have anything?
I do.
You're next.
I just wanna know when we're gonna put the sidewalk back in, so my mom doesn't have to drive on the highway with her scooter.
I just told them that.
Oh, sorry, I was on the phone with work.
It's all right. It's all right.
That's all. I mean, I don't think she should have to drive on the highway to do that.
And how much did they need for?
You have,
85.
Brendan, you have Mike's address for the record.
Yeah.
72, then right side. North, and then
Any other citizen comments?
I just got a couple of questions about retaining walls. Now, all retaining walls, they have to go through the plan committee first before they would be rebuilt? Or could you just build a retaining wall without approval, I guess? Is that something?
I would have to defer to the engineer, and this isn't really a question answer. This is session, not just citizen comments. So
Okay,
when we get to item number 9 on the list, we can address a lot of these.
sure.
concerns.
I'll make sure.
That's right. Okay, item number 7, discussion of possible action to refer village code violation of storage of junk motor vehicles to Margaret Werner at 7374 North Vine Street to municipal court. Hector, do you want to take this one? It looks like we've sent a couple of notices and situation hasn't been rectified.
First of all, I would like to ask Brenda, who referred this matter, was the building inspector?
It was the police department, and I did not get to notify the owner of this meeting. Because we didn't get down until Monday, and then it was too late I was out of the office Tuesday morning, it was too late to mail a notice of the meeting and the agenda, so I apologize for that. So I don't know, he had sent a couple letters, and I do know they have reached out to him a couple of times. They were having trouble locating somebody to come and take it for them. And so it's kind of ended there.
Wrestlers is right down the road. Yeah.
Right,
So you did say that you didn't get the letter mailed out,
I did not get it to.
then I make a motion that we table this matter for the next plan commission meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this item until the next meeting. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to table. Item number 8, discussion of possible action on sign permit application for Lake Shore Burial Vault, 21319 West Good Hope Road, Landon, Wisconsin, 53046. So this one was a sign that went up. I asked the clerk to notify them that, they needed to have a sign permit on file at least, even though it was already erected, just so we could memorialize it and collect the fee and go through the proper channels. So they provided that here. I don't know if you had any comments on it, Ben, other than location and whether or not it meets the requirements and setbacks and all that. It appears to be.
Yeah,
Fine.
I didn't get a chance to check on like the number of signs, but they're allowed 2 signs. The area of the sign is limited to 50 square feet per side, which I believe they fall under. The base of the sign appears to be, 10 feet long, and the overall height is about 8. So part of it, that's actually stone, I'm sure, conforms to that. As far as location within the right of way, this is in one of those peculiar spots where property owners actually own out to the center line of the road. But they did provide on here approximate offset to the center line of
55 feet 6 inches or 35 feet.
So the overall, they just made it then, so the overall proposed right of way that's gonna be part of the DOT project is 66 feet. So they are more than 33 feet away from the center line.
And along there, the right of way in most places is 3 to 5 feet now from the edge of the road. The only comment I would have is, we normally call it landscaping around and under the sign, but the way this thing is placed.
Yep.
I don't really see anything, and with the, concrete base on it, they can easily weed eat it. So I think we could waive plantings.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, given the district it's in,
Yes.
it's probably
No, we have to pave that driveway that's in that picture.
right.
Well, we have quite a few driveways to be paved.
I would entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the sign permit for Lake Shore Burial Vault at 21319 West Good Hope Road.
We have a motion to, whoops. We'll get a second.
With the, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I would recommend waiver of landscaping.
You want to amend your motion?
Amended, for Becker.
I'll second my man.
I just have a question, on the front and the back of those signs, are those some type of a hook? Is that a safety hazard that's protruding from that?
That's their lifting lugs.
That's an actual vault lid. I
Yeah,
think.
they make.
Oh,
septic tank
okay.
vaults.
There's a body underneath there.
But still, my question though, is that a safety hazard though? No.
So it do. Yeah, it's.
We're looking for a volunteer.
No.
Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9. Discussion of possible action regarding parking lot construction at 7291 North Landing Road relative to the plan of operation site plan. We're gonna let Ben jump right into this one.
All right, I printed out just some highlights here that I wanted to talk through the situation. Right out 15 altogether here.
got you.
I think there's 2 there. Perfect. Double check.
Thank you, Ben.
I want to make sure that. Have the papers. I've got 2 more if anybody wants. Oh, I got 3.
one?
Yes. Okay, so there's 3 sheets in here. Okay, the first sheet is the plan of operation site plan that was previously approved by the plan commission. Now we're talking about, I guess I'm gonna come at this first with talking about the parking lot area. Just to kind of lay that out. And I know obviously there were some comments here about the sidewalk. And I know I've heard from some folks up here on the commission too about frustration with that sidewalk not going back in. Sidewalk not going in. One reason for that is the design of the parking lot is going to impact how the sidewalk goes back in. So page 2 is the design that they had, their landscape surveyor put some spot elevations on here to kind of prove how this was going to, or demonstrate how this was going to drain, where the location of the new driveway is going. And then the blue lines and the red lines are comments that Strand had on this. So I want to point out with the red line on the left is just that what was previously approved at Plan Commission is that the parking lot would be 4 feet offset. Now, let's talk about the 4 feet versus 10 feet for a minute. So this property is zoned B2 Downtown Business District. And the parking offset requirement is 4 feet to an adjacent business, which the property that's shown on here is lot 19. On the lower left there is a business and they maintain 4 feet there. The neighboring property north of that, lot 18, is residential. So they're supposed to maintain 4 feet offset, 10 feet offset from residential. The zoning ordinance does allow the plan commission flexibility in the application of the standards. And I went back and I reviewed my comments from previous meetings and previous minutes, etc. My recollection is that the plan commission approved 4 feet offset from the residential parcel, also taking into consideration that they were putting up a privacy fence along the property line in order to allow for a reduced 10-foot. Another reason for that was just the way that the parking lot laid out in order to have the extra feet there to get parking spaces laid out accordingly. They wanted to go up to that. So that red line that I drew, if you wanted to look real close, flip back to the top page. You can see how the plan that was approved at Plan Commission maintained that 4 feet offset. And then that second page with the red line on it just shows that however, whoever laid out this parking lot, it starts to encroach even closer to the property than that. So I drew that red line on there just to kind of rough in where that 4 feet offset line would be. Now, the blue lines are just some arrows that we put on the plan with the calculation of the drainage and the cross slopes. Now, technically, the lowest that we would ever design something for is 0.5%. Cross slopes on sidewalks is required to be 1.5% per the ADA in order to be ADA compliant. And part of their proposed driveway, as you can see on this, kind of ties in with their whole drainage strategy here. So the strategy all the way up in the upper left or northwest corner of this is that all of the flow would drain out the driveway toward Main Street across the sidewalk. Now we looked into if that's an acceptable strategy or not. Just as far as the ordinances are concerned, yes, that's an acceptable strategy. We also kind of did some calculations here. Based on the amount of impervious area and all the flow going to the spot, whatever, everything just draining toward the street. We did some engineering calculations using just kind of standard methods to see what is kind of the consequence of the new impervious area causing everything to drain out to the street. In a 10-year storm, the standard is if the water, if the runoff, it's allowed to pond up to the center point of the travel lane. Not the center line of the road, but the middle of the travel lane. Our calculations show that as it's laid out right now, that water would go out 6 feet into the travel lane. So technically, and that's per the DOT Facility Design Manual or FDM. So technically, it works. However, Main Street's not our road, so I sent our comments to the applicant. I believe I included Jerry and Patrick and the county on that. And asked the county to weigh in on whether or not this was acceptable to them. But as Dave had pointed out in his public comments, in order to make the slope accordingly, they would have to take that far corner of the parking lot and they would have to fill 2 feet. Just in full transparency here, David reached out to me to share his concerns. I met with him yesterday. I've talked with Eric and Michelle a couple times in the last day or so also to kind of talk through the following. So if you would please turn with me to the last page. These are 3 different cross-section views that kind of demonstrate the various drainage concepts or drainage ideas, what the designs would accomplish. One of the things that Dave pointed out was a concern to him was where's the snow going to get stored? What's going to happen during the snow melts? He doesn't want that snowbank draining onto his property, etc. So the item number 1, that top drawing, is kind of how it would have to be built in order to accomplish what the current design is. Okay, so the flat green grass on the left is intended to be the backyard of the residential property there. And that red line, that first red line that's vertical, is intended to be the property line. Okay. So on the property line, you'd have to have a retaining wall built up. I'm not sure if this is can be constructed this way or not, but I just assume then that the fence would kind of somehow be embedded or anchored into the top of the retaining wall. And then you can see the edge of the pavement there of the parking lot would be 4 feet offset from the parking lot. I'm sorry, from the property line. That would leave about 3 feet between the fence and the back of the parking lot pavement. And you can just see a random shaped snowbank there with blue flow arrows on where the drainage might go. What I'm trying to show as you move to the right is that some of that in the runoff will drain off. It'll drain across the sidewalk, get out to Main Street there. A little bit will infiltrate, maybe a little bit still ends up heading towards Dave's yard. I never plowed snow personally, but I can only imagine that the snowbank is probably going to get piled up against the fence. That could cause wear and tear on the fence, could cause the fence to lean, whatever. So Dave and I talked through this, and item number 2 here, Dave expressed to me what he would rather see. So I just grouped that up here on item number 2. What Dave would rather see is a 10-foot offset from the property line. And at least when Dave and I started our conversation yesterday, of rather than having a retaining wall, just have the ground gradually slope back toward his property. The challenge with that is very little water or very little snow melt from that snowbank, because then all the snow gets piled behind the pavement on the slope. Almost all of that then ends up draining toward Dave's property, and I don't think that really gets at the heart of what one of these primary complaints was here. So what I came up with after talking to a couple of folks is option number 3 there on the bottom, which is kind of brought up in the past a little bit. I still show again the 4 feet offset, okay, but the main difference here is what's underground. If you put a stormwater inlet grate, stormwater inlet structure. And a pipe underground out to the stormwater in Main Street, which is represented by that blue circle. Then everything would drain toward the inlet in the parking lot and out. You wouldn't need to fill 2 feet, you could more or less match the grade at the property line. The snowbank probably still gets piled up there, it's got slightly more room. And I'm just showing here conceptually what that would look like. I would only assume in this case, in the winter, that if it's bad winter and there's a lot of snow being piled up or whatever, the snow is probably covering the parking stops that are at the head of the parking stalls, whatever. And the parking is a little bit shortened during the winter months because of snow storage. It could still end up getting piled up against the fence. It'd have to be kind of a robust fence, so to speak, if we're to go with this. But this is just the concept to communicate intent. I discussed this over the phone with Eric and Michelle. And they kind of understood kind of the intent here, and they've actually gotten some referrals for a couple of contractors, and they're going to look into the inlet solution a little bit.
I don't want to interrupt too much while you're on a head of steam here, but do you have anything that illustrates where in this parking lot you envision this
Oh, yeah, this being representative of,
grate running? I mean, would it run north or south the entire length of the, like at the end of each, like somewhere at the back of those stalls or something, and then angle back out to Main Street? And
You'd almost put it on where these elevation grades are, where the circles with the X's are. That's where you would put a swale in.
put what, swale?
What, in the asphalt? Yeah.
well, where would the
Kind of in the middle.
If you can see this, I drew a hatched circle right here. It'd be one, it could be a circle or it could be a square,
On the dash and
but it would be just one
Yeah.
inlet in the middle. And the benefit there is that,
One round inlet?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and so,
It's not like a French
Um,
drain, it just goes to a
yeah,
pipe.
I take for granted, not everyone has the curse of the engineer. When I drive around and go shopping, I can't not see these things, so I just take it for granted. What do you mean, where would it be? Where all of them are. So maybe you'll notice that from time to time now. I will point out, though, just as part of our review of the original plan, which is page 2 in this packet here, we looked at whether or not an inlet is technically required. And for comparison's sake, like Mibs and Bibs doesn't have an inlet, it just drains out toward the street, toward the sidewalk, etc. So conceivably it could work. Now this parking lot, Mibs and Bibs drains in a couple of directions. The one thing that makes sorry, I can't help but call it Betty Ann's.
Yeah.
That makes the Betty Ann property more challenging is that this is like the only spot it can drain. We don't want any of the drainage directed at the neighboring properties. As a matter of fact, we made comments about having the downspouts routed to the parking lot, etc.
Right.
The challenge with building up the grade 2 feet and just expecting everything to run to the street is that those are very precise elevations that the contractor would have to be able to accomplish. So one of our review comments I already shared with Eric is if they go that route, how are you going to confirm, presumably have your surveyor come out and be on site while they're doing this to confirm that they're hitting their grades or not? Because if it doesn't get installed correctly, really the only resolution is to tear it out and try again.
Yeah.
So in order for that to work, which again, technically it's feasible, it could work, it would just have to be very precise. The advantage to the inlet, in addition to being able to kind of match the grades at the property lines here, is you don't have to worry about whether or not they bring in the right fill material, if it's compacted correctly, if the Retaining wall is built correctly, albeit it's pretty short retaining wall, et cetera, et cetera.
And the inlet on the storm sewer eliminates the street flooding problem.
Right, then it all just goes
Yeah.
into the storm sewer. Now, the challenge here is normally if you were gonna do a new inlet on private property. You would try to run your pipe. Like, here's your inlet on private property and here's your pipe. You try to run your pipe into the back of an existing inlet. That's in the curb line on the street. Cause that structure, then you can kind of drill into the back of it at whatever elevation you need to, and then the water just drops down into the storm sewer pipe below. Trouble is, there's no inlet along their property frontage, so they would have to coordinate with the county how that storm sewer is getting connected to out in the street, but I did let them know. The storm sewer at least is on that side of the street. It's not necessarily in the middle of the travel lane, it's kind of on in the taper or the paved shoulder, so to speak. So it's accessible. But it's gonna be rather involved to get in and let there, so. That would also have to be permitted through the county. For a right-of-way work permit, and as I said, they're kind of reaching out to contractors about pricing on that.
Yeah, and we rebuilt that line about 10 years ago.
Correct.
It was crushed, if you'll recall.
Yep,
Were you on here? Yeah,
I was the field engineer on that one,
yeah.
2012, that was my first,
So, but that's a large diameter pipe. You could
Correct.
almost come in the top of it.
right?
Yeah.
Right. Build what we would call, in the industry, it's called a doghouse structure, where you, instead of cutting the pipe and putting a structure in and then reconnecting the pipe, you just cut a hole in the top of the pipe. So you build your box right on top of it. So that's just kind of the various concepts being talked about here with this concept. And as I told Dave yesterday, I know he's insistent about the 10 feet. My opinion is still that the 10 feet's not necessary. I still understand that Dave wants that or whatever. Again, the background there is still that in recognition of the fence there. That's why the plan commission was agreeable to reducing that 10 feet down to 4. If they're able to get in, go this route, and they look at a redesign, and maybe maybe the area of the pavement gets reduced a little bit, then look at the measurements of the stalls and the width of the access down the middle between the spots at all. I'm not sure how close and tight everything is, but I would just suggest that the plan commission should discuss that part of it a little bit further.
Yeah, so Ben, if the 10-foot option happens, those 4 parking spots are gone, basically, because you're gonna go from 4 feet to, that's 6 feet. I just can't imagine that you're gonna get 4 parking spots in that area. Can you? I mean, what is the minimum distance between the back? Yeah, is there enough swing there then?
6 feet between the stalls.
Yeah.
26 feet. Okay, our code minimum is, I think 22 feet. So, I mean, not 22 feet, it's 18 feet. So
Oh,
he
18.
has room to bring that whole side in.
Okay,
6
it just
feet.
becomes a tighter fit, but you can get
Right.
those
But
4
you're
in there.
not Driving like 10,000 cars in and out of
Mhm.
it either.
Yeah,
Well, one thing I would just. I don't have experience with the minimums, but 18 feet is about, you're gonna have a truck trying to pull an Austin Powers maneuver, trying to get in and out of there. And obviously, everyone's hopeful to see a retail business going there on the first floor, and certainly accessibility is. Ease of access is part of how patrons judge whether or not they'll come back, right? So that's where I think there's probably some flexibility to maybe do more than 4. I would say if you did the 10, then they would probably want to take a look at doing parking. With angled stalls for spots 4, 5, 6, and 7 there. And I'm not quite sure. How that lays out, if that really gains much there, but just, you know, if they're angled stalls, then. Someone's gotta almost back out all the way to Main Street. Can it be more than 4? I think there's probably a trade-off there, just without really. Measuring everything up, which we have a software called Auto Turn, where you can kind of simulate different size vehicles and how they would actually maneuver in and out. Without doing something like that, my hunch is just quite frankly that 10 feet is gonna make that parking feel too tight.
The thing is though, Ben, is anybody that's in 4, 5, and 6, you still have. The back out, the handicap might be open, there's a triangle below the handicap, there's a spot above the handicap that. You know, there's a lot of area there that they could still back out to get in and out. You know, especially when they submit this proposal of this garage. Currently, the 3 doors, that means the whole service door, well, the garage door next to the service door would never fit on here, because how are you gonna get in and out of that garage door? You know, because we also said that they were on their proposals, they were gonna put their dumpster recycling bin.
Yeah.
Off the corner of the garage there, which it now won't fit at all. You know, the way they wanna run this 22 by 36 garage, maybe they have to move the 22 by 36 garage. More to the east towards the existing building, you know, center it up. You know, but I don't know if anybody recalls how much snow is plowed off of nibs and vibs onto this grass over here in the wintertime. Picture that pile. Now, I think this lot over here is gonna be bigger than nibs and vibs. That's gonna be a lot of snow. And when, you know, like, yes, we approved a concept, okay? We never saw architectural actual drawings. Okay, I still don't know what this privacy fence looks like. You know, so when you start putting wood of snow against the fence. All the fasteners of the fence, the good side is to the neighbor. That means all the nails are on the neighbor's side, so as that snow pushes, everything starts to buckle and break. You know, so you don't wanna pile that much snow against, you know, I mean, a 4-foot fence, a 6-foot fence, 8-foot fence. I don't know how much snow. I know if I was to plow my driveway up to the schoolyard fence, I'd be over the top of that fence real quick.
Sure.
So I don't see the 4-foot fitting at all. I see 10-foot that we have some snow area. Because if they have a snow problem, it's not my responsibility for them to say, hey, village, hey, I got a snow problem, I gotta plow it out to you guys. No, you know, you have to find a way to get it out of there. You know, if you have to haul it out weekly or whatever, I mean, so they need a spot between the garage and the existing building to push snow. They need a spot between the loading zone and their building to push snow. They need to find ways to hide all the snow. I just don't see it on this parking lot, you know, especially. Yeah, I know we approved the concept, but that was before we had actual engineering drawings to see what would actually go on. Also, we want to raise it and stuff like that, and it's just. You know, I don't want to do this to you guys, you know, I mean, you committed a lot of money into this project, but. You know, it just, and then you're showing on this drawing, a retaining wall built right on the lot line. You know, this red bar going on, that's the lot line basically, I think, isn't it?
No.
Was it 4 feet from the lot line? And okay, and it's curved. Poured concrete, it's not even stone or anything like that, it's just a slab of concrete. You know, that's very decorative, you know, I just don't see it. You know, because what kind of fence are you gonna put on there?
Real nice cedar tone, 6-foot picket, brand new, super nice.
And and that's right on the wall.
That's gonna be right exactly on the lot line. On both the north side and the west side. Right on the property line, both.
So it has all the bushes that are between that retaining wall and that. And the fence and the trees that we're gonna plant there. The first time it snows, they're gonna be crushed right to the ground.
We may have to make some changes on landscaping, because that was put
Yeah.
in place before we considered.
Yeah,
doing
the
the
bushes
wall.
might not be able to stay.
It's kind of,
We're going a lot of
progress
backwards,
and snowball.
because I think there was, you know, I can't even keep up with how many drawings I got here on this and everything like that, you know, with their plantings. From the arborvitae that we're gonna be in along that area, so. Okay, that's just a couple questions, or a couple comments I have for right now.
What if they extend the loading zone into that tree area, another 4 feet or so, would that, so then you could have some additional room, to turn around. That the temporary space could be moved, you know, closer to the walkway area there and that could give them some additional room. I'm not sure what the footage is on that tree.
Yep, and fair
Oh, I'd be
points,
open to that.
and this is
Okay, yeah,
not
good
directed
idea.
at you, Mike, but just in general, what I wanna avoid is the plan commission designing this by committee.
Yeah.
Right, I think procedurally, what we did at the last meeting when we approved this, we said we were okay with the 4 feet based on the privacy fence being there. And what's happened since then and how I kind of treated this is, you know, the plan commission approves a site plan like this, and then it's up to staff, namely the building inspector and I, through the permitting process to review the specifics and in that review, in addition to seeing that it's gonna work,
Right.
seeing that it conforms to what the plan commission saw, what the plan commission approved. So that second page there with our comments is like, okay, this could be done. They're a little bit closer. That red line is where the 4 feet would be. Now, if it's gonna go back to 10 feet, then I suggested to Eric and Michelle earlier, when I talked to them is, you might even want to consult with an outfit that does parking lot designs, and presumably someone familiar with parking lot designs came up with this in the first place. But leave it to the owners and their designer to figure out how they're going to meet the intent of what was approved, and that, you know, makes appropriate accommodations for the future garage, for where snow is going to be stored. Still allows for landscaping that matches, you know, kind of the intent, the scale, the quantity that was previously approved by the plan commission. Etc. So I think what would be helpful is to kind of revisit. And I will just say, if they go the inlet route, that means there doesn't have to be 2 feet of fill, there doesn't have to be a retaining wall, they're just matching the grades, there's a fence going on the property line.
You know, and I think that was part of the reason too, is when we started looking at all original stuff.
Mhm.
You know, we didn't see elevations, you know, we
Sure,
should see, okay,
right.
so we're looking at, okay, general, okay, the land is like this, okay, that's fine. To make it all work, all of a sudden. You know, it's
Right.
like, you know, it was clear out of the, you know, when you first put that 2x4 along the long side there, I go, okay, that's gonna be your curve for your parking lot. Not to find that out, I mean, I thought that was the top of the curve, that was not even, you know, close to what that was gonna be. The thing is, if you move that forward curve in, that could almost act like a curb stop then, too, you know. If you-
It could,
you know.
and I talked through this a little bit with Dave, if it was a poured curb. Or a poured retaining wall that was poured up a little bit higher than the pavement, so that it kind of acts as a wheel stop, whatever. The problem with that is you've either gotta cut out some notches in it so that snow melt can get back onto the parking lot. If it's the wheel stops that get set on or bolted on after the fact, when you look at those are raised up off of the pavement a little bit, except for a couple of spots where they make contact with the
But see,
pavement.
the other thing too is.
And it
is
helps better with the drainage.
If you're pouring a concrete retaining wall 2 foot high. How deep does that have to go to the ground? 3 feet, because of frost line, because that's gonna start heating.
Yes, good question.
So
Great
now
question.
you're looking at 6 feet of concrete, 10 inches wide. It's not, just a little bit of concrete, it is wide. Because it's got a whole lot of ground all the way down. And you asked earlier about retaining walls.
Yes.
County put one in front of my house when they redid Good Hope. I got a wall that's leaning out towards the road now. Can I get county to fix their wall? No.
Sure.
I'm waiting for a guy to come along with a big old crane to push it back now. I'll send him a bill.
So, one of the things that, to my recollection, that we're really seeing for the first time here, though, is this proposed garage
Right.
here.
Yeah, I will tell you, and we can get into that to the extent the plan commission and the applicant wants to. I can tell you, I expressed some concerns about the garage with the applicant. Eric also emailed me to let me know they might want to do something different about the siding. And when we talked on the phone yesterday, I said, look, I think what you need to do, there's obviously a few categories of change that are going on here. I think get a plan together and circle back on the garage real quick. He said, yep, something on that needs to change, like the height of the garage doors. He didn't catch at the time, but those were drawn incorrectly. He's not trying to put in 16-foot high garage doors here. But that whole concept, he said it didn't come out the way that he intended it to. So maybe that in and of itself is enough to disregard it. But I want the plan commission to know that we've talked, and what we need to do is like document if there are changes from what was approved previously at plan commission, let's capture those all at once and come back with a revised plan of operation and review those things all at once.
The other thing too is the garage is restricted to 17-foot height.
In the B2, yeah.
So
Yep.
he's already at like 20, you'd say 24 height.
Right,
Yeah.
and we were gonna talk to you about that at a few or earlier meeting that we had. About switching the property to ROP. Because that was actually the property is ROP and that you guys were gonna look into it. I remember
That's that.
someone had brought it up and had found out that property.
So that's 17 in ROP.
It's 25. The accessory structure in the ROP business is 25 feet. Accessory structure
But it's B2,
in B2 is 17.
17,
So that's the difference there.
and that he could take up though through. What is it, that other committee,
Zoning
Zoning
board of
board.
appeals.
zoning board review.
So the trick here, and this is a good example of it, it's hard to talk about right now. What height is everyone okay with? Without seeing like an updated, more definitive. Drawing from the applicant. Clearly expressing this is what we want to do.
But
And
if-
show us how that
Right.
fits in the whole
And the other
context.
thing though is if he lowers the grade back down, the 2 foot won't make that building look so tall either.
Sure, right.
Now, you went from 17 to actually 19 from neighbor yard.
Right.
So.
And we're
Now we
trying
need
not to
to
build,
To
bring it
the
up.
west, but the neighbor to the north, also he's looking at.
So I think the other thing that I think a lot of us would probably like to know is. Since we can't really nail down concretely some of these other things, but I think we can address things like. Some of the things that were addressed earlier, like the weeds, and the sidewalk, and
So-
when can we anticipate?
So let's talk sidewalk real quick. So I just want to say this sat on my desk for a month and it shouldn't have, and I'm sorry for that. So part of what they were waiting on in this case was and is me. And part of the reason why it's been tricky is according to this, again, these elevations are so precise and the slope of the sidewalk is very much integral in making sure that the whole thing works.
Sure.
So if they do go the inlet route, which we didn't talk schedule, but I imagine over the course of the next week or so, you're gonna have a better idea which route you're gonna go. But if you look at this bottom drawing on the page that I drew up here, suddenly the back of the sidewalk, which would be the edge of the sidewalk closest to their building,
Yeah.
is almost the high point in the whole works, right?
Sure.
Like
Yep.
very little
Sure.
water's running across that.
Yep.
It matters much less how that sidewalk goes in.
Yep.
It's gonna slope from the back of the sidewalk inward toward the inlet that's on their
Onto their
property.
property.
All I'm trying to say is, if they go this route, it removes a lot of coordination and they could probably get the sidewalk in faster without having to worry about if they go the 2 foot fill and slope it all the way, they've gotta really pin that whole thing down and do it all at once.
But cutting in and tying into that storm sewer, isn't that gonna disrupt the sidewalk again?
It could disrupt the sidewalk, but it also depends on where exactly they put the inlet, if I may have your pen again.
Absolutely.
You know, if they work with someone and they decide to kind of put it closer to the loading zone, there's nothing to say that they couldn't do it on the edge. I mean, they might have to, practically speaking, the sidewalk will have to get cut at some point. You probably have to replace a square, whether it's new sidewalk that gets cut and replaced the square of, or an old one.
Sure.
But then they
Just to make sure that the applicants understand
Sure.
that very well might need to happen.
Sure.
Down the road to, depending on which way
Sure.
they go.
And depending on things here too, I do think it is fair to talk about schedule on the whole thing. I know contractors aren't sitting around with nothing to do right now. But if they are able to make some decisions, et cetera, and get this laid out appropriately, then they could presumably at least get going on the inlet and the sidewalk and do that all at once. I think would be ideal. Next best thing would probably be get the sidewalk in and just know that you have to come and cut out and replace 1 square of sidewalk.
Do you have any sense of which direction you're leaning at this point?
We're leaning towards putting the inlet in
Okay,
and keeping, not bringing the grade up 2 feet.
right.
We like that option.
Sounds easier to me, but.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
project.
there's a lot of benefits from it, you know.
We do have to look at the cost effectiveness of that because
Yeah,
we are
there's two
more than a
different-
budget and.
Different prices. for
They
each.
both sound expensive to me. but-
Yeah, they both.
Well, the thing is, that what I see though, is when you're raising something 2 feet and filling. I could see that no matter how much compassion there is, it's gonna start sinking,
Yeah.
you're gonna end up having to fix and replace.
10 years,
daily, you know,
30 years, but all that
You know,
concrete.
'cause right now you're solid,
Yeah,
you know, you start routing down, up, you go down, it's still solid,
Sure.
going up, it's
And-
much.
that's a lot, you know, that's couple feet, so.
Linda, you had a question?
I know I'm new and I'm stupid, but this.
No.
I see 3 garage doors and are these for residents or something to put their car in?
Yes, they would be, yeah.
Because it would be very hard for them to back out where the placement of the garage is right now, if say resident number 7 was in his spot.
Parking space.
Yes, that one would be right, yeah.
So I just am wondering, if who need to push down.
But that would be for the resident.
So both,
It's spot number 7.
spot 7 and the
Is for
garage
the
would be
he
his.
needs 2 spots by ordinance for the residential,
Okay,
minimum of 2.
Mhm.
So he's defined them there.
so in other words, if the guy's in the garage, he can move it from the time.
For sure.
And the garage is gonna get reconfigured.
Right.
It sounds like anyway, so.
Yeah, because you got the issue with the waistband yet too. You know, we haven't had spot for that.
And screening and all that.
Yeah. And it's gotta be accessible by the garbage truck.
Right, yeah.
Are you just gonna do smaller rolling bins or something that they'll
well,
roll out or?
There is room right there if we bring the trash receptacle up to the garage. If you see that little green space there?
Yeah.
That does accommodate for the, you know, that patch going towards, you know, the side. He's got some of his stuff there that are on the property with his fence and stuff. And that's the only reason why we changed that, receptacle there, not to go over to clear his fence. We wanted to destroy them right now.
Right, and in the interest of keeping the peace, Dave reached out to, I think, all of us on the board and or on the planning commission and he expressed the 10-foot thing. So we are able to say that we approve 4 feet and is Dave okay with that, with the accommodations for drainage? Because it kind of looks like if the inlet is used, it might be beneficial as far as drainage towards your property. But if we say 4 feet's what we'll approve, then his citizen complaint goes where? It's, I don't know. That's what I'm asking though,
Right,
is,
well-
is that in the spirit, the overall spirit of compromise, making sure you're happy and your property's protected and making sure your solution is adequate for the people around you. That's the point of my question, is what happens, because I don't want to get a call tomorrow from Dave saying, I still want 10 feet.
Well, first of all, I think that your question, with all due respect, anticipates a set of facts that aren't there yet.
Mhm.
I think we've taken a good deal of the meeting to appreciate what we know and what can possibly occur. I think before that question can be answered, and I think it's a very legitimate question, you need to have before you a set of designs for the site which you are seriously entertaining approving.
With dimensions.
And exactly, yes.
With dimensions.
And it could be 10 or it could be less. Now, I do not believe that either Mr. Bartel can rely on what the ordinances say with regards to the ultimate outcome. For this reason, we have a very unique lot in a very unique location in this village with high traffic, with the possibility of future development. And there's always the potential of seeking variance. Because if we were talking about open land here, this particular configuration for the lot probably would not have been accepted. So I would recommend that question be held in abeyance until you have a specific plan which take into consideration all of these factors.
Agreed.
Engineer.
Okay.
And
So-
I want to point out here that unless I'm mistaken, the concern is really about snow and snow management. And I think the offset from the property line is one tool in the toolbox to solve that. I think it's a little bit misguided to think that that's the only solution for how they manage snow. Because as we're talking about the 3-bay garage, you know, if they get back that 6 feet, then it makes it even more difficult to fit in a 3-car garage there, right? So all of these things have to work together. Just staff here, I get that. My personal thought is that there's probably a different way to figure out snow and keep it at 4 feet. Maybe they go through the design and they're like, you know what, 6 feet is kind of the sweet spot, and the planning commission or I could entertain that also. And it's just gonna. From there, if it is the 4 feet, I would expect Eric and Michelle to point out to us, here's how we intend to manage snow on the property. If the snowbank gets to be bigger than this, then we're gonna
Truck it off.
get a skid steer and get it out here, or, you know what I mean, just kind of have some answers for those things. And I don't want to put Dave on the spot here, but when I was talking with him yesterday also, they don't see a need for a 6-foot high fence. They would be fine with a 4-foot high fence. They don't mind, you know, watching the cars or the pedestrians on Main Street or whatever. So that's just something else to keep in mind. You can do whatever height fence you want that fits with the ordinances. I personally was concerned about, glare from the headlights as being a reason for the fence, and it sounds like the way things are oriented over there, that's maybe not as big of a concern. And, so I would just say, take that into consideration. When you're thinking through the specifics also.
So are we, it's sounding a lot to me like we're probably looking for, to table this until, further more specific things develop.
I would like, while we're still here and on this item, I would like to hear from the applicant on what their preferred or intended schedule would be coming out of this, because we do find, you know, if our next meeting isn't for 4 more weeks or whatever it is, this is kind of the trouble, the back and forth here a little bit. They would like to pick a direction and come back and show us something, and then the plan commission is going to be frustrated that another month has gone by and nothing's happened.
But we could do a joint PC Village Board meeting and it'll be
On July 8th.
Mhm.
You know, I'd like to, first off, thank you too for the last meeting on April 25th, and I see you, you know, the engineering stamp is 4 days later, so I mean, you got that really nice survey. The only question I have is there architect drawings for that parking lot layout, garage, or anything like that? That you got, other than this, the renderings that they've been fighting all these times?
No, you don't have anything, yeah. We have.
You know, I mean, we've been working off renderings, you know, okay, here's the grass, here's the bushes, 4 foot, and all the fences. Because that's the whole thing is. If you try to get somebody to actually lay it out, that if you move the garage a little bit, it's, you know you wanted to try to meet those slab.
Well, yes, no,
Yes, you know, you know, what height is that slab at? Does it say it's there?
no, I don't think so.
No, it don't, because they got proposed at 886, so that slab ain't at 886.
No.
That's gotta come up there, so that tells me that slab is important.
Sure.
Okay, now,
No, we just started that.
so now back to Ben's question of, you know, what do you guys looking for?
I mean, we are, the opinion that we like to get going as soon as possible on all of this. I mean, we're frustrated as well, but things aren't moving along, I guess, as fast as we ever intended. As far as timeline going forward. I mean, we will discuss and look at these different options, and so we are leaning towards the design with the inlets. But if we need to get to consult our architect on that, that could be weeks, it could be months to have an architect come in to plan a parking lot design. We were trying to, I'm just gonna be honest, we were trying to avoid having the architect come in and design more because they're really expensive.
Yeah, see, yes, the problem is, you're gonna have to have something designed, to put that inlet in.
That now is a,
For ice, you know.
and that's another concern,
Well,
you know, it takes everyone time.
So quite frankly, if I can take what you mean by architect and just say.
Engineer,
designer.
yeah.
It could be an engineer, it could be, like I said, if, granted, Poblaki does asphalt, but a company like Poblaki, and I express this to them. You call them up and they would do the design and quote you, and it would kind of be a thing. They almost would design this as part of their due diligence before they build it, so, it kind of depends. Now, the thing is, doing the inlet though, that will have to get permitted through the county, so that's gonna take time. That's not gonna get done in a month.
No.
So I think the other thing that folks are gonna have to decide here is then, what about the sidewalk? I understand that the village has a strong desire to see that sidewalk fixed no later than the car show on the 4th Saturday in July. So we're kind of up against
Well, is there something that can be done short of pouring a new sidewalk? I mean, right now it's riprap, it's mud, it's it's weeds. I mean, can we grade it and put some gravel in there or something?
2 inches of asphalt.
TV in there.
2 inches of asphalt.
Gravel in there.
TV or something? I mean, you know,
Asphalt.
because right now it is, you know, the stuff that's growing there, I mean, it just doesn't look good. And I understand why it's like that. I know more than the people that complain about it, believe me. But maybe we could at least just get a grader in there and grade it and get some TV down and, you know. Because, you know, right now it's kind of a hazard versus, you know, doing something with it.
Does that satisfy the ADA requirements though?
I mean, it would still be a temporary under construction
Right.
situation.
Yeah, I mean,
Or it'd be better than not having anything,
it,
other than a hole.
it would, it would.
Yeah, from my perspective, it is imperative that we do something, because if there is an injury, the fact that it's gone this long, is going to drag the village into any particular claim. Okay. As well as the stuff. Sure. So, sooner the better we can do.
And that's what Mr. Newman was trying to impress upon you when he met with you on site.
Sure.
So there are generally requirements that be bonded and have insurance. In this time frame, and all of those things, and none of that has happened. Right? So.
And I'm not trying to be adversarial here, Mike, but just and Jerry, they have a plan, they have very standard parking lot dimensions here laid out of 9 foot wide by 18 feet long, et cetera. And I guess I understand the need to coordinate the parking lot layout with the final garage design. And maybe it's that the garage slides a little bit east or something like that. I can see the need to coordinate that. I guess the rest of this, I'm curious as to what else you're looking for to be designed other than the inlet, the drainage. I mean, they're not gonna come up with a different parking stall size, I guess is what I'm saying.
Seems to have all the needed dimensions.
I think it all depends, I think. If you were to go with inlet, you know, and all that, it's pretty much back to what we originally were looking at as a flat program. If you wanna start raising the grade, then we have to start shrinking it down more so in May. But that we didn't foresee, you know, in respect to the neighbors.
They bring up one more issue. According to our ordinances, before you started tearing out the sidewalk, you needed to provide us with a $100,000 liability insurance policy and a $5,000 bond in case you didn't perform.
I don't know, that needs to be clarified.
And what could be is we could be assessing you $100 a day when you started on that without a permit, which is over 3 months ago. So it had to for that with the state. It's with the village of Lanning. Nothing to do with the state. It's the village of Lanning from the director of public works, which would be me. Okay. And we could look at, we probably won't do it because the board wouldn't like it, but we could be looking at $9,000 penalty right this minute. Because $100 a day, 90 days, you haven't done it.
So do you have an insurance company, I assume, for the work you're doing over there and everything? So would this typically, would we just be added as an additional insured on that policy up to a certain limit? And then they can issue a bond as well. There's usually a small premium that you pay to have that. It's not insurmountable.
To the extent that you have coverage, you may be able to get an endorsement without getting a separate policy, but that's something you're gonna have to explore.
And it show Landonville, as the beneficiary.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
the village of Lannon.
And
has an
$100,000.
additional insurance.
Okay, I'll speak with them.
And then you'll need to provide proof of that. And typically they do that by providing what they call a declaration and an endorsement.
Yeah. If
which
they try to,
basically just expands the policy.
if they try to, don't send Hector an Accord 25 form, because he won't take it. If you've been to any of these meetings before, you will know, it's gotta be a declaration page.
So silly.
Okay.
So what's your action?
So
Well,
Go ahead.
sorry to keep dragging this out. Have we defined what the problem is? So if they're pursuing the inlet option. Last remaining problem is whether or not 4 feet is acceptable. Now, I can tell you what we would normally do on any other development is say, okay, plan commission approved this, it's now in staff's hand and through the building inspector with the building permit process. To just handle it at our level to make sure it works. They come back to me on Wednesday and say, here's our plan for the inlet, here's the layout of the parking lot, etc. I look at it and say, yes, this works, send the building inspector an email. Thumbs up, go ahead, he issues the permit, they start working. What I'm nervous about here is the requirement. Or at least I'm inferring a requirement here that you want it to come back to plan commission to see it again. And I would say if I got some direction on what the objective is with the offset to Dave's property, then it could be handled at a staff level.
My concern is that the parking lot goes in tomorrow to eliminate the liability you got there and hazard.
The sidewalk.
The sidewalk.
Yep.
And, you know, if you go with the catch basin, you don't have the design and sidewalk and basically put it back like it was.
Yep.
Right. And so that's my concern, that
Sure,
that gets put in almost immediately, certainly before the car show.
sure,
And before somebody gets hurt or a person gets run over in the street.
yep,
Right, so our key points would be that we need to know the solution as chosen by the property owners, drainage, so if they decide to do that, then we can certainly trust staff to know that, before a pour is done, that those elevations are checked according to the form work. I mean, you can shoot lines off the forms, right?
yeah.
So you approve, and that could be all done at the staff level. You don't need to involve us.
Now, typically what we would do in this is we would say whoever they had designed the parking lot should be there during construction to check the grades, not us.
So hypothetically, if they decide that they price out the drain option, the drain underground to the storm sewer, they price that out, they go, that's reasonable, that seems like a reasonable solution. The only thing that we have outstanding then is the 4, 6, but what they have to do is they have to decide that they're gonna do the drain option, then they have to get it designed. And that would be where we would hit the 4 or 6 or 10 foot threshold.
So we already approved 4 foot.
Okay.
Train, they've already got approved, they just went in the train, I think. Now, the other thing is you could say, okay, we could change it now to 10 foot, they can go to zoning, ask zoning to give them a variance.
Yeah.
For that 4 foot,
Mhm.
that's what they could do.
Well, and I don't even know that variance from zoning is required because it's B2 right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And the zoning ordinance on parking says, yeah, it's gotta be 10 feet, but the plan commission can exercise flexibility in how these ordinances are applied.
Which we
Plan
did
commission
previously.
already did.
Actually, we gave it a 4 foot, so
Okay.
if they go to drain, it's back to the 4 foot as presented a year ago, a year before that even.
Yeah.
Now, I can also say, because the village is contracting with municipal code enforcement, a third-party entity to do code enforcement. If, this is why you need to think about snow management, if that fence starts to get dilapidated, if that landscaping gets disturbed and died. There will be someone driving around the village saying, hey, all your landscaping is dead, fix this in 30 days. So that's where I'm just like, you know, even if it is 10 feet, I'm not sure that some of those perceived issues go away. And for what it's worth, maybe the solution is spot 9 and the loading zone go away in the winter or something like that.
Right.
And just pile all the snow there. But it's kind of up to them.
Yep.
To, and quite frankly, it might not make you all that comfortable, but if it's me and Jerry as Public Works Chair, if you guys can show us your plan. Show us your plan to manage snow and we can work that out, I would think that we're still okay with the 4 feet.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm feeling. We can handle that at staff level.
Right.
And with it being down at the existing grade, that takes care of some of the worry up against the neighbor property.
Sure.
Now we're back
Right.
down to what it is right now.
Mhm.
In the short term, what, do you have any plans for dealing with some of the weeds and grass?
We do, yeah.
We want to be.
Are they?
Yeah, we got a new weed whacker, we got a new mower.
All right, so that's imminent.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Got rid of the wood pile that was all stone, so we're working on.
It's,
Yeah, the sidewalk is the key, you gotta get that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
We got a lot of liability there.
Yeah.
And you do too.
Sure do.
I don't know if it's necessary, but when you get to formulating action, and Hector, I would ask for your input on this. I would appreciate the plan commission, if you so choose, to affirm the past direction of you're okay with the 4 feet because of the fence. With the caveat that they work with staff and the Public Works Chair to sort out how. You know,
The
snow
drainage work.
management
Yeah.
and drainage and landscaping is all gonna work.
I guess, like I said, if we're still at existing grade, we don't have to do anything.
Sure,
Other than you make sure they put the drain in.
sure.
If they wanna elevate, then we need to take action.
I think Ben's just looking for a reaffirmation simply because it's been so long. There have been some proposed tweets here and there, and I think it would probably make the applicants feel better if we just reaffirmed our previous action, unless Hector, you say, no, you don't have to, you've already done it. Move on.
I think it was helpful for everyone's understanding to consider a motion to send this matter back to staff for follow-up review of specific dimensional plan from the applicant, with the understanding that those plans should be consistent with the 4-foot offset from the property line for the parking.
And a finalized drainage solution.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
You know that, Brenda? Okay, I make a motion like Hector said.
Like emotion. I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
So in other words, that was to send the staff a follow-up review of specific plan to the applicant showing plans for the 4-foot turnout finalized with a drainage solution.
Yep. I got one. What is your schedule? What?
As soon as possible.
No, I'm talking about your whole project there. What was your plan to have the apartment done and the?
Well, we
lower
were
level?
thinking 2 years and it's been 2 years since we owned it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We didn't get our first permit until I think it was October.
Forget to actually start.
So the
working,
first,
so.
yeah, a year and a half was all planning. We were working with our architect and engineering.
what is your plan at the moment for completion? 1 month,
Get
2
this
months, another
working
year,
on.
3 months we're open.
3 months?
Yeah, we're right at that edge. We think that we're gonna come over the hill anytime here.
We're waiting on a
And
couple
really
of
start
permits.
things happening.
We're actually set to pick up a bunch of them tomorrow.
Because again, you're on the main corner inland and I'd like to see it finished off, at least on the exterior.
So
there.
we-
Yeah, we're getting there, we're getting.
All right.
Wait, the process way more than we ever.
So I think the priority one is sidewalk, priority two is to get your route and drainage, how you can drainage and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then once that pipe falls in, the whole thing starts falling.
Right.
Yeah, then everything can start rolling.
And that we were gonna, talk to you about the siding on the building. You don't have to, it's a video siding that everyone's well aware of, but underneath it is one of the most beautiful cedar siding you've ever seen. And we're looking to have that yellow removed and then expose that cedar siding. And then just kind of just see how good it is or not good it is.
Have you
And
tested that yellow?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we did, yeah.
And
It's
it-
not asbestos.
It's not.
Yeah, or lead paint either, so.
Oh, fabulous. Good
Yeah.
for you. I was worried about that for you.
Could you forward us that report?
Sure can, yeah.
Okay.
I like to know what you did with the little signs that were underneath that yellow on the front of the building.
Oh, yeah, some guy just stopped over and was like, oh, you mind if I take him, I'll put him in my car, and I was like, after I gave it to him, I was like, I shouldn't have did that, I should have kept them up.
Because those are, that's old history.
It was, yeah.
Who knows what you might find on the side?
Sure,
That's
yeah,
true.
something underneath there, But we pulled, pulled a little of the yellow off and you can see behind it, and it looks amazing.
So our
So,
plan with that is we're gonna remove this yellow siding, since it's not asbestos, we can take it down and then determine the condition of the cedar underneath.
Yeah.
And then if it is not cost effective to have refinished, then we would go with the original plan that we did.
Yep,
approve
you
by
had
Plan Commission,
like a
which was
vertical in.
gray,
decided,
Yeah,
Mhm.
decided.
some other exciting.
And if it is in good condition, we'd like to try to restore it,
Mhm.
because we think that would look really neat.
When you say restore it, do you mean to like a cedar shake look or?
Yeah,
paint
to
it
the
the
original
dark gray?
100-year look, no, the original
The
cedar
original
look.
Cedar.
Okay, because
It is different than their plan.
this says dark gray siding to match primary building,
Yes.
which was a little confusing.
So
That was the previous plan commission.
previous plan approval was great,
Dark gray, yeah.
they're great, but now that we know it's not asbestos and we can fix it. Have more options.
Yeah, so that's gonna probably need to come back.
Here's my
Yeah.
thought,
Okay, sure.
thinking procedures here.
Yeah.
If what was approved was that dark gray siding.
Yep.
You're gonna find yourself doing the demolition necessary to move toward the dark siding.
Mhm.
And you might then see something that says, I would like to do this differently. And
Yes.
come back here next month. And say, hey, look, everyone, we just tore off the siding, this is what we found,
Right.
we would
Mhm.
like to change our plan.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
the first step towards the approved plan anyway.
What I'm trying to say is I think they're fine to tear the old siding off, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to put new siding back on yet. You
Right.
would- We'd have to come back if there's gonna be a change from that.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that was understood, because I know some of these steps were a little ambiguous initially, and that held you up a little bit. I want to make sure that we're spelling out a clear path for you forward.
And I just want to add to it, and we're pushing a schedule and everything, but I'm gonna also add that part of this process has been a grant that we've applied for through the WEDC.
Mhm.
And we're on the verge of getting that into underwriting within the next couple weeks. And a piece of that is the resolution from the village. So some of this is being held up right now because anything that is gonna get covered by this grant, which can be up to, we're looking at quite a substantial amount of money. We can't start on it until after July 1. So we have a date that we need to wait to
Right.
be able to use some of that grant money to help pay for this.
Have
So
they given you an indication of what that might be,
The,
award amount?
yeah, we're looking at $250,000.
Oh, that's.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're trying really hard to get all of our ducks in a row,
Yeah.
with the grant piece.
That
because
is
that can pay for the-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Am I too late to
Yeah,
get,
we're like, we can start the siding and start talking about the siding.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
am I,
in a sidewalk.
yes. yeah,
Right, right.
exactly.
am I too late to get you my letter? I
No, will
start,
still take-
yes, okay,
was
yeah,
gonna-
I'm sorry. I had a family emergency and it kind of sat, but I will get you that tomorrow
Yeah,
then.
I've gotten quite a few, so but an additional one will be.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you gotta handle this.
We will,
Yeah.
yeah, soon, yeah.
Resolution. You don't need a whole. So, yep, so we had a motion and a second. We had lots of additional discussion. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, discussion and possible action on sign permit application for Manchester LLC, 7494 Circle Drive, land in Wisconsin 53046. I believe this is the old Gabor well property
Actually, they've had a,
next door.
they had a plan, they've had a plan of operation since Dan Martin was president.
Right, yeah.
So they've been around, like,
No,
I went down there yesterday and had Brenda, and we were surprised, I was on the fact.
she drove through there.
Yeah. I forgot.
Okay.
Alright, so we're ready to go on this item?
Yeah.
So this is a ground style sign, the size conforms with the requirement, meaning it's less than 50 square feet. I believe it only has one face, given the direction that it's located. What I do not know is whether or not this is the first sign or second sign on the property. But they're allowed up to two. I see, following up on previous comments, there's no landscaping shown here right now. And I do not have a dimension as far as how far behind public right of way this may or may not be.
Yeah, there's no site map showing where it's gonna go.
I did talk to them today and I did tell them that they do like to see that and that could possibly hold it up, or if you could give that to us this week.
So, we could do something similar and conditionally approve this upon staff, getting, a site plan that shows a legal placement. And you could choose with or without required landscaping, again, in this area, I don't know.
Because I see on their application, it does say that the building doesn't have a sign.
No,
There's
it
no
does not.
signs at all down there.
I'm sorry, did I hear someone say this was the old Gabor?
No, I was wondering if that's what it
Yes, someone
was.
said that, but that he.
It's not.
It's close. Yeah.
It's neighbor to the,
Yeah, beat up.
north.
It's a north.
So the right of way is. We're trying to get a measurement here behind the back of the curb.
5 feet, is it?
Yeah, it's certainly not as wide as,
No.
Good Hope Road, just trying to scale this off here quickly.
A and B roofing. right?
It's about 9 or 10 feet behind the back of curb. So if they provide this plan, as long as someone is able to follow through on where they actually put the sign, as long as it's outside the village right away, it seems fitting that could be.
5 feet off the, right?
I'm measuring up
Property
about 9
line.
or 10.
They've got plenty of room, just to move back closer to the building.
Well, and it's, especially since it's a single-sided sign.
Right.
The further away from the road, the more effective it's gonna be. So,
Is that from the sign professional?
yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, all the materials and the proposed installation method are solid, so.
I make a motion to approve the sign, and absent of any landscaping.
You want to need a
With the-
condition on.
Condition, yeah.
That it's
Placement.
not on the right of way?
Yeah, well, good, but it's not. I'm not worried about it.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I will just go on record as saying I prefer that we make sure it's not in the village right away, but other than that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You adjourned.
Like, there's.